Jake Paul got knocked out by Anthony Joshua in 6 rounds. He got his jaw broken and he fought like a coward, like someone that did not want to get knocked out. So look, I think this should be the end of the circus. The clown show, this should be the end of it, because it is clear that we know what we know about Jake Paul. Going into the fight, we knew what we knew before the fight, and now we know exactly what we know. Nothing has changed. Like, this fight did not show us anything different to what we knew about Jake Paul before. So I feel like this should be the end of the clown show, the saga. Jake Paul trying to fight, real boxers. This should be the end, because that performance there was not someone that is ready to get in there with real boxers. Jake Paul can fight the likes of Tyrone Woodley, right? Jake Paul can fight these guys and he can have success, because these are not real boxers, right? MMA guys that are coming into boxing, they're no good. So Jake Paul can have his fight with these guys. But Jake Paul stepping in a ring with real boxers is just a no-no. He's putting himself in harm's way and he knows it. He knows he's going to make a lot of money out of it, but he's doing it anyway. And what Anthony Joshua did, what Anthony Joshua showed us, is that Jake Paul is just not what he thinks he is, or what some of his fans think he is. I can't believe for the life of me that some people thought that Jake Paul was going to beat Anthony Joshua. I just couldn't believe it, right? Some people thought that Jake Paul was going to get a big shot. Anthony Joshua's chin is weak, they said. Anthony Joshua cannot take shots, because they were looking at the Andy Ruiz fight, thinking that Joshua is going to find it difficult to deal with Jake Paul because he's a shorter fighter, and that Jake Paul was going to be able to do what Andy Ruiz did. But bad news for these guys. Jake Paul is not Andy Ruiz. Jake Paul is nowhere near the level of Andy Ruiz. And that is exactly what Anthony Joshua exposed in that fight. Jake Paul, his tactics were pathetic, right? It was embarrassing. The way he was fighting. If any real boxer fought like that, I will be on here criticizing them, right? A lot of people, a lot of pundits, a lot of analysts like myself will be out here calling that fighter out for fighting like a coward. And that's exactly how Jake Paul fought. But look, this tactics worked for Jake Paul because he didn't want to get knocked out early. He wanted to spoil the fight. He wanted to make it difficult for Anthony Joshua to get any success in that fight. So it worked for him. But in a boxing sense, that performance was pathetic. It was just a disgraceful performance. Especially, he's getting paid so much money to get in there and give his best. And he was just trying to, make the fight a dud and make the fight boring and uninterested. But look, like I said, I think this should be the end of it. Jake Paul, after the fight, in an interview with Ariel Helwani, he said that he wanted to go to Cruiserweight and win a championship belt. For the life of me, I cannot believe that Jake Paul thinks that he can win a belt in the Cruiserweight division. Look, the Cruiserweight division is not the most deep division in boxing. It's not the most competitive division in boxing. But there is no fighter in the Cruiserweight division that I would think that Jake Paul would beat. No one. The current champions forget about it. Jake Paul cannot stand in front of one of the current champions in the Cruiserweight division and be competitive. No way. That cannot happen. That is impossible. Jake Paul, with his experience, with the way he fought, with what we've seen against Anthony Joshua, will not be able to compete with any Cruiserweight fighter. Just imagine, right? Just imagine Jake Paul in there with Jaya Pataya. That will be a disaster. That will be carnage. That will be, they need to get the paramedics ready in that fight. If Jake Paul ever gets in there with Jaya Pataya, they need to get the paramedics ready, because he will get absolutely flattened out. Unless he, gets a ring that is 24 foot to run around and to spoil the fight. But if Jake Paul thinks he can become a world champion in the Cruiserweight division, he's lying to himself and he's going to get absolutely ironed out. I mean, imagine Jake Paul versus David Benavidez. Like, it's a mismatch. The biggest mismatch you would ever see, right? Because David Benavidez is a monster and he's going to, pulverize Jake Paul. He's just going to knock him spark out, right? He's going to beat him up, take his soul and just knock him spark out. So Jake Paul needs to stop it. He's not going to get in the Cruiserweight division and he's not going to win anything, because Jake Paul fought Tommy Fury and Tommy Fury would not survive in the Cruiserweight division. Tommy Fury will not beat anyone in the Cruiserweight division. So how much more would Jake Paul think that he can get into the Cruiserweight division and win a world title. Now, somebody asked this question after the fight, that do I think that Jake Paul is going to stop fighting right now after this beating he took from Anthony Joshua, or is he going to continue? And I said, Jake Paul is going to continue, because Jake Paul is a lunatic. Jake Paul loves this. He's getting a lot of money for having these fights, whether he loses or wins. And Jake Paul is going to keep doing these fights. I wouldn't be surprised if Jake Paul fights Francis Ngannou next, because he would feel that he has a chance against Francis Ngannou. And then he will get in there and realize that he doesn't have a chance. But then Netflix will put that on and pay him a lot of money. Jake Paul is not going to stop having these fights because they are successful. This is his first against Anthony Joshua, a real bona fide world champion. So Jake Paul will feel like, he's learned a bit more in this fight. He will feel like he wants to get some more fights on down the line and fight the likes of Ngannou. I wouldn't be surprised if Jake Paul wanted to fight Tyson Fury next, or Alexander Usyk next, because after Alexander Usyk beat Tyson Fury, Usyk said that he will fight Jake Paul in the octagon. So I think Jake Paul still has, some future in the fight game, whether it is in an octagon or in boxing. I think he will do it again. And I think, he will get a really low-level MMA guy that is coming into boxing. He will knock him out, and Jake Paul will feel confident again, and he will try and get back into boxing, and he will try and get a big name in the ring again to fight. I think Jake Paul is going to keep doing this because he can see that there's a lane there, right? There's a gap in the market where he can exploit, he can make a lot of money, and he can look, semi-good doing it. And of course, a lot of people in the US thought that he was going to win this Anthony Joshua fight. So Jake Paul would feel like he's got more chances. I mean, for him to say that he believes he can win a world title in the Cruiserweight division, that shows you how delusional he is. But it also shows you how crazy he is to think that he wants to get in the ring again and keep taking punishment and keep doing this. But look, I looked at the fight and thought maybe Jake Paul deserved a little bit of credit, right? To be in there and to take those big shots for Anthony Joshua. I mean, the shot that broke his jaw would have knocked some people out. And I think Anthony Joshua took his time, took a bit of sting out of that shot, right? I didn't think Anthony Joshua put 100% in that shot. So look, a little bit of credit to Jake Paul for stepping in there and fighting Joshua and taking some shots. But I think this should be the end of the clown show. The circus should come to an end. Jake Paul should find something else to do because, if he doesn't get hurt, seriously hurt in the next fight, he will get seriously hurt in the next 2 fights. And it's all dangerous. What do you guys think? Get in the comment section and let me know. Has Jake Paul got a future in boxing? Can Jake Paul get into the Cruiserweight division and win a world title the way he's been saying that he wants to do? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below.